Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lovely Life with Robin Westfall, and I am Robin Westfall. And I am going to talk to you today about a very interesting and painful bullying dynamic called mobbing. And mobbing is an interesting thing. The first time I really heard about it was from someone I know, a social worker in Kingston named Richard Schwint, and he wrote a book that I read. I actually heard him speaking about workplace mobbing first, and then I got his ebook, which was brilliant. I think it's really a great book. And the book is called Emotional Recovery from Workplace Mobbing. And I would show it to you, except for I bought it as an ebook, so it's actually in there. It's in my phone somewhere, but it is a really good read. Lots of great tips in it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that he says about workplace bullying or workplace mobbing. And I'm not an expert in this at all, but one of the reasons I want to talk about it is because this month, well, for October and November, I do a lot of wellness initiatives in organizations. And I've just come across a lot of clients in my private practice who've been experiencing this. And the other thing I will tell you, I have experienced it myself as well. So, that was several years ago now, but sometimes I still feel the effects of it, believe it or not. And that can be really challenging on some days, but I feel really good. And it's a topic that I don't really understand a tremendous amount about, but I'm going to try to talk about it because I think even spreading awareness about it is really helpful. So, I said that I've been a target of mobbing myself, and I'm going to say right up front that I have also participated in mobbing dynamics in workplaces, and I don't really feel good about that. But I think about the Maya Angelou quote, which is, when you know better, you do better. And I really love that quote. It really guides a lot in my life. And so I'm thinking about that as well, because when you know about mobbing dynamics, it's much easier to pull yourself out of them. And mobbing dynamic bullying is not something that we really talk about a lot. So I will be upfront about that. And of course, I would never do those things now. And I really support targets in organizations who really need support for mobbing. So I'll tell you quickly the definition that I have that Richard writes in his book that actually comes from Ken Westhouse, I think. And the interesting thing, I'm pretty sure he was a prof where I went to school. So that's kind of an exciting thing at Wilfrid Laurier University. So they talk about it as mobbing is an unfriendly, hostile act toward a target. And it's also acts that undermine a person's confidence. It's group solidarity against one person, or a collective attack by a group of people against another person. And because there's a gang, because there's a group of people doing this, it's often, a lot of people will blame the person. But if you can step back, if you can understand that kind of a dynamic, then you can really see the target's point of view from that. So some of the effects that a person might experience are, not being able to sleep, getting problems with their stomach, headaches, migraines, heart attacks. This kind of stress can cause a lot of heart problems. When people are under the kind of stress that we see with a mobbing dynamic, they can actually become chronically ill because, again, our bodies just tend to break down under that kind of pressure. So it is a very difficult dynamic to be in. And I think one of the hard things about if you're a target of mobbing in your work environment, a lot of people will say, well, just leave, right? But a lot of people can't just leave. If you are, if you're in a higher position in your organization, if you have a ton of experience, if you have a ton of years in there, if you're close to retirement, it can be really hard. If you're the sole provider in your family, it can be really hard to leave your position. It's not that easy. And the other thing is, if you have people ganging up on you, it undermines your confidence, and you can lose that faith that you've had in yourself and start to question your whole life. And of course, it can be very difficult to find another job. So a lot of people who work in these kinds of environments unfortunately don't have a choice. They're single moms that have to provide for their kids, or they have kids in university, or like I said, they're a couple years, maybe 5 years from retirement, so it doesn't make sense for them to leave the organization. In my experience, I did leave the organization. It was very challenging, and I gave up a lot to actually leave that organization. So, that wasn't an easy process for me, and it took me a long time actually to recover and even to really kind of understand that dynamic. And it really can wear at a person. So so that makes me think about, how do you heal from a situation like that? If you can't leave your work environment, if you have to stay, unfortunately, I would like to be more positive about this, but oftentimes it doesn't get better. It can sometimes get even worse for people, and the target ends up on sick leave or on stress leave because they can't cope with the kind of harassment or that kind of mobbing mentality that is really destroying them inside. So how do you heal from that? If you can't leave the situation, how do you heal? Having a good safety plan is the first thing that, we like to talk about as therapists, as social workers, is getting a good safety plan. So have an idea of what you would do if you lost your job, if you got fired, if you had to leave on short notice. Do you have a resume? Do you have dates? Do you know what your finances are? Do you have enough money that you could survive for a month or two without working, or some ways that you could cut back? And then even just thinking about, what would you do if these things happen? What's your way out? And of course, sometimes the only way to really be able to see clearly is to see a therapist, to talk to somebody through your Employee and Family Assistance Program, your EFAP. And sometimes they can help you. Sometimes the EFAP also has career counseling as well as personal counseling. So there's people to help you with healing and with moving on. I think a therapist is so helpful, or even your family doctor can be really helpful. They can provide you with a different way of seeing the situation. They can point out where your thinking might be off, where it's been influenced by having the negativity of the environment that you have been in. And of course, the big thing, working in a toxic organization or where there is a mobbing mentality, is your self-care. So get out on your lunches, get to the gym, use body therapies, go have massage, chiropractics, get Reiki, do whatever you can that's going to help you in your body to relax. Do things that you love outside of work, read, go to the woods, swim, whatever it is, do puzzles, play games, all of those things that help you to keep balance, because I think the worst thing about a mobbing dynamic, from my perspective, from my own personal experience, and also from working with many people who have been the target of mobbing experience, is how it undermines your self-confidence. You know, you may have been working in your field. I personally was working in my field a lot of years. So to all of a sudden feel really like questioning my skills, all of those things, those are very natural things that happen. So you need to balance it with things that are good for you and all the self-care strategies. I know I talk about self-care strategies so much, but they really work, and they really help to shut down that cortisol firing in the back of your brain, and they prompt that relaxation response in the body, which is what you need when you're dealing with this kind of a dynamic. Also, mindfulness, using mindfulness techniques, having things in your office that act like an anchor. So beautiful pictures, images on your screensaver, beautiful images or mantras on your phone. So when you look at them, it's a reminder of what is important to you. So let me see. I don't know. I don't think this is live again. It kind of looks like it's not live. So, but if people are watching, feel free to give me a like, or feel free to give me a question, because from what I can tell, it's not live again, and I'm just going to have to post it, and hopefully it works. But if you do have questions about workplace mobbing, leave them in the comments. I will check them. The other thing, again, if I can really recommend that book by Richard Schwint, Emotional Recovery from Workplace Mobbing. It's a fantastic resource. There's a ton of information in it, and I highly recommend it. Richard is a great guy, a local guy here, and I have really enjoyed several of his ebooks, and this book in particular I found really helpful. So remember that the mobbing dynamic it's one that we aren't really trained to see, but you should watch for it. You may be a target of it, or you may be participating in it. And if you know that you're participating in it, remember, you want a work environment that's a healthy work environment. So that means we all have to step up, and we all have to make a difference in workplace bullying, stopping mobbing dynamics, stopping gossiping, stopping spreading rumors, or just engaging in that kind of negativity, because no one deserves that. Even if it's someone you don't like in an organization, they don't deserve to be treated like that. They don't deserve to be undermined. None of us do, and it's really toxic. So again, take care of yourself. Watch for the physical manifestations of the stress of mobbing. They are toxic on the body and can cause you a lot of health concerns. And take good care of yourself. If you can't leave the organization that you're with, then you want to implement your self-care strategies as much as possible. So I hope you found this helpful. Leave me some comments, and I will check in after if you have any questions. And so I hope you have a great day, and I hope you really found this helpful. I'll talk to you soon.